Imagine a betrayal so cold, so deep, that the only way to survive is to choose to be dead. This is the story of a man whose soul was shattered into 1,000 pieces by the very people who were supposed to be his sanctuary, his own flesh and blood, and the woman he intended to spend forever with. But he is no longer the victim they can kick around. He is no longer the weak fiancé who begs for a scrap of affection. Now, he is a shadow, a ghost walking among the living, counting down the final heartbeats of his life in his last 7 days. On Earth, this isn't just a story of revenge. It's a haunting journey of a man who decided that the world didn't deserve him anymore. It all began with a wound that refused to close. A scar carved into his heart by his older brother and his Tunangan, his fiancé. To them, he wasn't a brother or a lover. He was a stepping stone, a nuisance, an obstacle in their path to wealth and status. The people he trusted most treated his kindness like a weakness and his love like a target. When the pain finally reached a breaking point where he could no longer breathe, he made a choice that most people couldn't even dream of. With hands that didn't tremble and a heart that had already turned to ice, he signed his own fake death certificate. He decided to give them exactly what they wanted, his absence, but he did it on his own terms. He chose the sky burial, a ritual of total release where the body is returned to nature and the soul is freed from the filth of human greed. He wanted to vanish, to let the wind carry away the memory of the man they had broken. But death wasn't the end, it was a transformation. Behind the curtain of his demise, he was reborn. He emerged from the shadows as the sole apprentice of the legendary Erhu master. Tujuh, he returned to the very city that tried to bury him, but he didn't come back with a sword or a gun. He came back with an erhu, a traditional instrument whose strings cry with the weight of 1,000 sorrows. When he plays, the music doesn't just fill the room. It pierces the soul. It is the sound of his dignity, the sound of his hidden pain, and the sound of a man who has already seen the other side. Yet, destiny is a cruel master. Even though he had already settled his mind on leaving this world for good, the universe decided to test his resolve one last time. He had 7 days left. 7 days to witness the true faces of those he once loved. 7 days to endure a gauntlet of suffering that would make anyone else scream for mercy. During this final week, the traps started falling like rain. The people from his past, not knowing who he truly was under his new identity, targeted him with a malice that was almost demonic. It started with a fall from a high-rise building, a terrifying plunge that should have ended him right then and there. But he survived, his body broken but his will unshaken. Then came the kidnappings, the dark rooms, and the threats from thugs, who were nothing more than puppets for the powerful. Every time he escaped, fate threw him into another nightmare. A staged car accident, a collision of twisted metal and shattered glass, left him bleeding on the cold pavement. And yet, even in that state, the cruelty didn't stop. He was dragged to a hospital, not to be saved, but to be used. They forced him to donate his blood to save someone else, someone who wouldn't even look him in the eye. As the needles drained the life from his veins, something strange happened. He didn't feel anger, he didn't feel a need to strike back. Instead, every drop of blood he lost felt like he was shedding another layer of his old, miserable life. The world he was leaving behind was a hollow shell of greed and betrayal, and there was nothing left here for him to protect. We reached the climax of this tragic masterpiece, the fake wedding. It was supposed to be a grand celebration, a display of power and union for his brother and his former fiancé. But the air in that room was heavy, thick with the scent of secrets waiting to explode. As our protagonist stood there, the mysterious master of the erhu, the music he played began to change. It wasn't just a sad melody anymore, it was a judgment. One by one, the masks began to crack. The people who had oppressed him, who had laughed at his death, started to see a familiar look in the eyes of this stranger. The realization began to crawl up their spines like a cold insect. The man they thought they had destroyed was standing right in front of them, but he was beyond their reach. He was a master of his own fate now, and they were just actors in a play that was quickly falling apart. Watching this journey is like watching a slow-motion collapse of a beautiful building. You see the grace in his suffering. You see a man who has been stripped of everything, his family, his love, his identity. His silence is louder than their screams. He uses the final days of his life to show them the mirror of their own ugliness. By the time the wedding reaches its chaotic end, he has already won. Not because he took their money or their lives, but because he took away their power to hurt him. He proved that even if they could break his body, they could never own his soul. As you listen to this, you might wonder why someone would choose to leave so permanently. But look at what he endured. Look at the calculated coldness of a brother who would rather see him dead than successful. Look at a fiancé who traded a soul for a status symbol. This script is a tribute to the underdog who stopped trying to fit into a world that didn't want him. It's about the ultimate freedom that comes when you finally stop caring about the opinions of those who betrayed you.